Holy crap. What's up, y'all? Man, that's a lot of energy for a Sunday morning. Here's the one. Who's ever been in a panel that I've done before? Cool. You guys are screwed. Oh, man. Here's the one thing, you may know this. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. I was even thinking about it this morning. And I was like, what am I going to talk about? And I've realized something over the years that I've done this where it's like, everything that I've tried to plan, the best laid plans of mice and men, right? Everything that I've ever tried to plan has always fallen through. But it's when I walk up and I go, I have no idea what this moment's going to be. I have no idea who's going to be sitting in those seats. So why should I try to prepare something for unprepared people? Just come out and do whatever it's going to do. So, anything goes. I'm 90% sure I'll keep my pants on, but there's always that contingency. But these pants, come on. I saw Trisha in the mirror and I was like, I have to stand like this with these pants. For absolutely no reason. It is true, I born and bred in Dallas, Texas, and I said that I was never gonna leave. That, by the way, that's when you go, woo! They hit the pitch and everything, that was incredible. I was the person who said proudly that I was, because there are a lot of people that we know from Funimation that did the Texodus, as we say, and they said, well, it's time for me to go to LA, and then about 2 months later come back and like, I thought you went to LA. It's like, it didn't work out. So I said I'm never going to be that person because I was afraid of failure. So, well, it gets better, don't worry. Spoiler alert, I'm doing okay. But, so I said I was always going to stay in Dallas, and all of a sudden I got this audition for this movie for a Western. And they're like, we need you to be a skinny, dopey cowboy. I'm like, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And a funny story. I went to the audition, and then I got a call from my agent. They said, they want you to be in Santa Fe, New Mexico in 2 days for the callback. And I went, that's awesome. They're gonna fly me out? I'm like, no, you're going on your own dime, and if you get hired, you will be a local hire, which means if we're lucky, they'll pay for your hotel, but you're not gonna be treated like someone from LA. It was like, well, you're really selling this. So I decided to do it, but here's the problem. I did not have the money in my account to be able to fly myself on Southwest, so that kind of tells you my financial situation at the time. And I really wanted to do this. But again, I was afraid of failure. So I said, you know what? It's just not meant to be. I just don't have the resources and it's not the right opportunity. And a friend of mine said, how much is it? And I was like, it's $341. And he cut a check to me right then and he was like, you need to go. So I took that money and I deposited it in my account. I went and bought a pack of cigarettes. And I booked a flight, and I went to Santa Fe, and they were doing the auditions at the School for the Deaf in the middle of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beautiful. You went? How did you know? It's my alma mater. Bad joke. Anyway, well, no, it's like if I had someone over here signing, that would be like, for it, I totally get it. Anyway, moving on. So they were doing the auditions there, and I'm watching as they're pulling people in for the audition, and then they're coming out, and they go, get her into wardrobe right now, and let's get her set up. I'm like, oh, they're pulling the trigger today, which is the best thing that an actor can see, is that they're not gonna have to wait. So I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting, and they're, good luck. And then they go, get them into wardrobe, and I was like, oh, okay. It's me, I'm the only one. Be with you in a moment. Okay, great. And then about 30 minutes goes by, and no one comes out. And then about an hour goes by, and someone walks past, they're like, what are you waiting for? Oh, I'm auditioning for, they're like, they went to lunch. Oh, okay, now I have 2 opportunities. How dare they, I've been waiting. Do you realize that I flew, this is my callback, it's my time, or I can wait. You're gonna wait, or you're gonna go home. Okay, I'm gonna wait. So I stood and I wait. Finally, someone comes back. It's like, thank you so much for waiting. And I go in, and I sit down and I do the scene. And I have 3 people in the room. I have Simon Windsor, Diane Osana, and Tom Lavelle, I think was his name, the executive producer. I may be wrong on it, doesn't matter. Diane Osana is watching TV, which is never a good sign. And Simon Windsor's looking at me and says, go through the scene, and there's someone reading with me, and it's awful. And I do the scene, and they go, Diana Solomon finally goes, can you go slower? I went, yeah. She was like, this guy doesn't talk very fast, so you need you to go very slow. It's like, okay. I start doing it again, she starts watching TV again. So maybe she's catching up on her soaps. I have no idea, but she's wrapped up in this TV. And so she goes, okay, thank you. I went, is there anything else you need to see from me? He's like, nope, we got everything we need, thank you so much. I was like, I'm gonna go outside and just kind of wait and while you guys decide. She's like, we're fine. He's like, do I need to go to wardrobe? She's like, you're fine, thank you very much. I'm like, well, there's $340. I'll get it. Oh no, it's an amazing opportunity. I have no idea who it is. We've been trying to reach you about your car's warranty. I'll find those people and burn them alive. Anyway, so I leave and I wander the halls and I'm like, man, I blew it. And I drive home or I fly home and then I drive home and I'm just depressed. I'm like, man, because I wanted it. And I didn't know that I wanted it until I tried and then I tried and I failed. And then I get a call from my agent the next day and they said, okay, so it's down to you and one other person from New York. And I went, New York City! And for those people that are in their 40s, get a rope. And they said they just have one question for you. Do you know how to ride a horse? And I went, ma'am, I'm from Texas. And that's all that I said. Because the truth is, not even on a pony ride at the carnival had I ever been on a horse. And she's like, I totally understand, I just want to let them know. I was like, yeah, you tell them I'm from Texas, ma'am. And so I get on set. So long story short, I do okay. And I get the job. And we have the whole first week is nothing but cowboy camp. That's what they called it, cowboy camp. Welcome to cowboy camp, which sounds like I'm 6 years old and is immediate emasculating. And they're like, we're gonna teach you guys how to, it's like that South Park episode where they go back to 1864. They teach you how to like shoe a horse and everything, it's terrible. And so I'm sitting there and I'm on my horse, and I took one lesson before I flew, and I remember stand tall in your saddle, heels down, reins down here, and this amazing, one of the wranglers, his name was Dutch, and he was just this vaquero, yeah, you know him? Woo! Dated him in high school. Dutch was born old, you know what I mean? Like he just was never a child, leathery face, awesome, and he looks at me and he goes, do you have any kids in here? One bad word. Looks at me and he goes, how good of a writer are you? I went, you know, and he's like, don't fucking lie to me because we're gonna find out in 10 seconds. And I went, I could probably use some help. He goes, okay. Now the horse I was on was called Old Mexico. And I found out the reason why it was called Old Mexico is because it had a lot of gas and it wanted to run. So when we were walking, it was great. Carl Urban was right to my right, and such an idiot. Steve Zahn, sorry, was to my left, and we're all just riding. And Tony Cobb looks back at me and goes, all right, boys, we're gonna kick into a little bit of a lope. And I said, all right. And he spurs his horse on, and my horse goes, oh, it's time, and he just shot to the front, with me flopping around like Raggedy Andy just on the back. And one of the other wranglers goes, oh, hold on everybody. So 13 grown men had to stop because me was about to fall into the dirt on my horse with Old Mexico going, and he goes, I'm gonna take Troy off to the side and we're just gonna work by ourselves for a little bit. So I went to remedial cowboy camp. Terrible. I have no idea why I'm telling this story. Maybe it's this. The lesson that I started learning, but would not learn for many, many years later, and still work on to this day, is never let fear be the reason why you don't do something, because it could literally be robbing you of the greatest opportunity of your life. If I had said no to that, I wouldn't be sitting in front of you today. And it's not like, well, you probably would have found another opportunity. No, because that, walking through that door led to that hallway, which led to that door, which led to that hallway, which led to that hallway, which led to that door, which led to that slam door, which I wasn't sure about, but a door opened up behind me and I walked through that. And that is a career. Almost every con, without any exception, someone comes, how did you get started? And I always say, I tripped backwards and I've been falling forwards ever since. And that's the way that it works. The one commonality between everybody that's going to get up on this stage and everyone that's sat at a table, you're going to go up and say, I love what you do. At some point in their life, they had to be brave enough to fail. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine today. We have a great podcast that I do with Alana Pierce and Mike Bithell and my dear friend Austin Wintry. And Alana said that if someone gave me an opportunity to direct, I would turn them down because I don't want to screw anybody over. And man, that resonated with me. I totally understand that. You've probably been in the same situation too, where someone goes, I'm gonna give you an opportunity, and you're like, oh, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, or no, that probably should go to somebody else. When before, I would have said something like, I deserve that, I should do that, why didn't I get that chance? And the second that someone gave me an opportunity, I was like, oh, no, I don't. Because I was afraid to fail. But if somebody gives you an opportunity, it's an opportunity. And I just want to encourage everybody here to fail miserably and gloriously. Because if you've surrounded yourself with the people that you should, you're always working with the net. And you'll never fall too far, ever. So examine the people that are in your life right now before that opportunity comes, and make sure that these are the tentpole people that will not ever keep you down, but will lift you up when that opportunity comes. Because if you're where you're supposed to be, it will come, and it will not look like you think it will. And if all fails, lie. Tell them that you've ridden a horse before. I don't know. It just feels weird to be in Dallas on a Sunday and not have a little bit of a sermon. Can I get an amen? I would love to hear, that's what's on my mind. I'd love to hear what's on yours. There's a mic right over here if you want to jump up. Do that. I think it's the only one, so please don't fight over it. Let's get going, because I know we have a little bit of time, and I want to hang out with as many of you as I can. Thank you so much for having me back. It feels so good, except for the oppressive heat. You guys do know I forgot what humidity was. I'll never forget my last summer in Dallas. I got into my 2000 Dodge Durango, and I turned on my car, and the little thing registered the temperature was 118, and I was like, I'm moving. This is literally nature going, get out. What you got, bud?
Hi. This
Hello.
question's for my friend Stetson over there.
Cool. Hi, Stetson.
He wants to know, how does it feel that Joel, a character that you worked on for 10 years, is coming to life in live action?
Dude, what a great question. Kicking it off well. Who's played part 2? Okay, cool. Who hasn't? Boo. Boo. I love it that the person who hasn't played it booed it. The people who have played it, anyway, we'll talk later. So when we wrapped, it's like all I want. Well, I remember exactly where I was. I was walking around in my neighborhood. It was in the middle of the pandemic, and so we walked a lot. And I was on the phone with Neil, and he said, "So I got some news. Looks like HBO is going to pick up the series." And I went, and he goes, "The good thing is that Craig Mazin, and Chernobyl had just come out. He goes, Craig Mazin is going to be the showrunner." And he said, "I've never met someone who's a bigger fan of this story." And he ended up, Neil was supposed to go in, I think, and pitch to HBO, and Craig ended up pitching the whole thing to him himself. And he was like, it was a really cool thing to watch somebody else pitch your thing and do it great. And so he was like, it looks like it's going to actually happen. I got to ask, who do you think should play Joel? And I remember, and some of you people knew this, like I publicly said, is like, there's a lot of Josh Brolin that I, incorporated in the character, and that came from meeting Josh, and matter of fact, while doing that movie in Santa Fe. And Josh is a genuinely good dude, and I bumped into him at an airport years later. I was like, hey man, I don't know if you remember this. We met at a bar in Madrid, New Mexico. I was like, I do remember that night. Because Carl Urban tried to lick his face, and Josh looked at him at the same time he did that, and there was a weird kiss. A man remembers that. And I put that image in your head, so there you go. The boys are ruined for you now. And I remember telling him, I was like, hey man, I know you get a lot of opportunities, but if this one ever comes across your desk, just give it a look. It's his character, and you really inspired me a lot. And he was like, all right man, I'll give it a look. And then we started thinking about it, and it's like, why are we doing, and I have asked Neil this before, I was like, why are we doing, at this point it was a movie. It's like, we've shot it, we've performed it, we've scored it, we've put it out, we've done that. And Neil put it to me this way, he said, the truth is, we really believe in this story, and at the end of the day, there's just some people that are never gonna pick up a controller and know about Joel and Ellie, and I believe it's important enough to bring it to them. We gotta meet these people where they're at. He goes, but if we do it, I wanna do something different about it. I wanna tell some kind of different story. And so, I'm so glad I can talk about this now. This is literally the first time publicly I can really talk about this because we just announced that Ashley and I are gonna have, we each have our own episode, and they take a month per episode to shoot. The show literally just wrapped. And so going up to Calgary and talking with that crew, and whether it be someone on Crafty or the armorer or the camera person or the dolly grip or any member of that crew came up and was just like, I just want you to know how much this game means to me. Everybody's a fan. And everyone is working so diligently. If you don't know anything about a crew, they're crabby. They're just all the time. And this was one of the nicest crews I've ever worked with. And nobody ever signs on for a year in the same location, on the same show. You may sign up for 3 months, 6 months, but typically it's like, I'm ready to see some other people. And everybody signed on for a year because they're like, I want to see this thing through. And so the amount of attention to detail and care and dedication is unparalleled. And Neil said this, he said, it will be the most authentic adaptation that anyone has ever done of a video game. So I am beyond excited, and I can tell you this, that Pedro feels the weight of this character, and that is the biggest challenge, I think, for him, is to be able to make sure that he is not trying to do a character that is anything like what I did, because that wouldn't work, we've already done that. But instead, I see a dedication to him to show you Joel to a whole new audience of people that still hits the same emotional beats that we did in the game. Incredibly dedicated. Bella Ramsey is unparalleled. She's inimitable. She's incredible. The strength and fire and passion that she has, I'll never forget. She was stepping out of her trailer, and I was walking onto base camp, and she was stepping out of her trailer. She looks at me, and we both stop. And she goes, hi. And I was like, I'm sorry, I mean, I've seen cosplayers, and I've seen people at conventions, but I've never seen Ellie not on a screen. And man, it hit me. It was just like, this thing is real. And I'll never forget, there was one scene, it's our first shot up, and we're in this incredible location, and they're spinning up the camera, and there's a crew of like 600 people, and I'm just standing there, and I go, son of a bitch. If you had told me when we first stepped foot into that office off to the side at Culver Studios to hear Neil and Bruce walk us through the pitch, that 10 years later, 12 years later, I would be standing on set of HBO's largest production, I would just have laughed. I was like, I never would have thought it was possible. I was like, my God, this is impressive. So I say all that to say this. Everybody that worked on that show, I mean from accounting to talent, did so with the full understanding of what this story and what these characters mean to everybody. And they understand why we're bringing it to a screen. So just know that they worked their asses off to make it the best they could. So I'm excited. It's a long way of answering that. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Yes, sir.
How's it going?
I'm great, man.
Good. First I want to give you accolades for the duet that you did with Ashley about 5 years ago at the Sony event. That was very moving and touching. It must have been nerve-wracking too, because you've got your own voice, and then you've got Joel's voice, and then you had to sing as Joel, play guitar. So great job on that.
Thank you, man.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
My question is, going back to the first time that you did mocap, how did that feel, and how long did it take you to get used to not using real props? You had to use like sticks and all kinds of things for props that didn't really exist. And then how does it feel to then look at the end product and see the props that they put in your hands and how it looks as a game?
Great questions. What's your name?
Chet.
Chet, pleasure to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
So, second time that I lied in my career. I go to an audition, I love this story. I go to an audition, and it's a cattle call for some game that we know that is going to shoot in Japan. That's all that we know. And my dear friends Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey were also there, and I found out, we waited for too long. I don't think we've ever waited for an audition longer. Like, we were there for like 3 or 4 hours, and typically after an hour they're supposed to let you go, but they just were taking forever because they were going through so many people. And I sat and I started feeling this, I should not have to be here. I started really getting pumped up with pride. I can't believe they made me, you know what? I'm gonna prove it to them, I'm gonna leave. And then I found out that Travis and Laura, it was looking pretty good that they were gonna get cast. I was like, well, I don't wanna be the only one of our little crew that doesn't go. So I stuck around. And I walked in, like I'll never forget this, the friend of mine who was a stunt coordinator who was gonna be the liaison, put it best. He came in like a whirling dervish. And I walked in and I was like, how's everybody doing? And I walked straight up to the panel of producers that were there and I shook their hands and looked them in their eyes and said, pleasure to meet you, pleasure to meet you, pleasure to meet you. This is an all Japanese production. So if you know anything about Japanese culture, instantly a no-no. Do not approach the boss, do not shake hands, are you an idiot? And do not come up with that much energy. And then I went and I did the scene and I was like, nailed it. Walked out and the coordinator goes, I can handle him. just I know that was a nightmare, but I can handle him. And so they let me go, to Japan. So it was Travis and Laura and I, and we're in Japan, and it's in the middle of Japanese summer, which is here but worse. And they're like, you've done mocap before? I'm like, yeah, totally. I'm all the time. I'm in so much mocap. But I just want to make sure our definitions are right. When you say mocap, you mean the suits with it? Oh yeah, the suits. Like Hugo Boss? Or what are we talking about? So I put on the suit, and this was the old kind where it was a onesie, which if you're a guy, is not that bad. If you're a girl, it's like the logistics immediately make you go, hold on a second. What if I have to go to the bathroom? It's like, is this like NASA where we're just gonna go in the suits and no one's gonna mention it? So it immediately, for me, it was great because it's theater of the mind. It is, this is my gun and this is my cape and I can make stuff out of nothing. But there is a lot of trust. And the reason why there's a lot of people that come in on mocap that have a tendency to overact is because you're used to, as an actor, especially if someone who does a lot of TV and film, they're used to, and I watched this happen, an actor, a trap that an actor can fall into is blowing your best take when you're not on your coverage. And what that means is we're on a wide, or we're on you, and you and I are playing out the scene, but camera's really just focusing on you. And so I want to make sure that as an actor, I'm giving you everything you need for your coverage because this is what we're going to use, but I can give my best take when I'm not on my coverage, and they're like, okay, now we're gonna turn around, and now Troy, we're on you. And my best take is already behind me, and now I'm trying to chase the same emotional beat, and the real skill is being able to bring that back, and that's why theater is so helpful, is to have it feel fresh every time you do it. But what a lot of actors will do is hold back on your coverage until we're on theirs. I didn't do that, so every take was me just going for it. So a lot of times you'll see people in motion capture or PCAP not sure when they're on their coverage. And so it's almost too liberating for them because they don't understand it's more like theater on film. It's stage on camera. And that is the perfect marriage because we don't have to worry about where camera is, are we on your coverage? We're always on your coverage because I can always shoot my cameras later. Making sense? But the end product, it's really hard to not be focused on the end result because now that I've seen it, and especially now with the remake, they went back and it's actually truer to our original performance than what it was originally because they have the fidelity, they have the resources and the mechanics to be able to show the most subtle of details. So it's actually better, or at least more accurate, I guess, than the original. But if I'm focusing on how it's going to look, if I'm focusing on the end result, I am immediately out of this moment. And so what I have to do is make this moment as real as possible. And so instead of trying to make things disappear, I own the fact, and this is real, this is my stick, and this is all that I have. And by leaning into that, I feel that we get a more authentic performance. But if I'm like, oh, I'm not going to worry about this, that's why the Mandalorian screen is really, really cool. But what they don't show you, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? They have this cool little LED wall thing. It doesn't look like the backdrop. You're not on Hoth when you see that.
Yeah, it even moves.
It moves and it's broken. It looks like you're on someone needs to settle down, and it's always broken because it's by camera perspective. So if you look at it, it's actually can be very, very prohibitively distracting. Where was I going with that? Let me be as succinct as I can. Acting is a commerce of trust and resources. The more resources that a production or a director gives you, as an actor, they're entrusting you more. The less resources they give you, or the more resources they give you, you are trusting them. The less resources that they give you, man, bigger, hold on a second. Use two. The more resources that they give me, a set, wardrobe, props, they're entrusting me. The less they give me, I am entrusting to them. But it is always about trust. So if that's the focus, and not fear, because fear and trust cannot coexist. You have to give up your fear and you have to lean into your trust. Are we out of time? Oh, cool. I saw people coming. Hi! How y'all doing? This is the AA meeting. You're right on time. It's Sunday, it could be. That's a very long-winded way to answer your question. I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. Yeah.
Appreciate your time. Thanks.
You guys having a good time? Is this cool? All right. Sorry. How are you? Okay, what you got?
First of all, I just want to apologize for my phone going off earlier.
Don't ever apologize. It's a great opportunity. I just wish that I had answered and been like, hello.
So I want to say I loved your portrayal as Two-Face in the Arkham City game.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to know what your experience was voicing that character.
I lied. No, this one time I was actually honest. I've been working with this voiceover director, and she was incredibly kind, and she brought me in to be Robin, which had 6 lines, I think, and then also to be a cop that was tied up. She said, we had one other role if you wanted to try. It's no pressure if you don't. I can talk to your agent about it, but we just have another role if you wanted to. I was like, which one is that? She goes, it's Harvey Dent Two-Face. I went, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, I mean, if you want to give it a shot. Now, she knew that I'm a huge Batman fan and that I would hopefully do a good job. I grew up watching BTAS, and especially Two-Face to me is one of the most unique characters. Joker is one of the greatest characters in all of literature, period. But Two-Face is one of the only characters, or is the only character, that's friends. That's a villain that's friends with Batman. And that to me is an incredibly unique thing. And it's the Jekyll and Hyde, and everyone can relate to that story. But I was just such a fan of the original series that same thing with Joker. It's like, this is what I always just imagined this character would sound like, and so can I do it? Let's give it a shot. And so I did it, and I saw everyone behind the glass go, yeah, can you do that again? Yeah, and I remember them asking me, like, do you want to do Harvey Dent first, and then we'll come back and do Two-Face? I'm like, no, it's not. That's not how he talks. He flips back and forth. I said, so let's do everything as it is. It's like, great, then as you see in the script, as it goes, just read it. And so I was able to do that. So that was my kind of first foray into doing something Batman. And then one of my favorite stories, that led to me going into, I did my Robin, and Two-Face I did by myself, but Robin I came in, and there was Kevin on the other side of the room. Now Kevin and Mark, this was the day that they were doing press. So they were getting the behind the scenes, because it's Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill again for the game, and I was like, yeah, you get that on camera. And so Mark and I, Kevin was doing some stuff, and Mark and I were kind of like a little holding area, and we were just talking about music the whole time. We were talking about the Beatles and the Stones and his musical, his knowledge of like trivial information about bands is just crazy. And then like, Troy, they're ready for you? And so I came in, and we're kind of on opposite sides, just that gives some separation because we're gonna be recording together. And I'm, 6 lines. He's got a voluminous script, and so he's just kind of going through stuff. And I'd never met him. I'm like, hi. He's like, hello. Yep, the same 6 lines. Gonna do warm-ups, do a lot of warm-ups before I come in. And he's just kind of flipping through, and I said, hey man, I'm sorry to do this, but, and you just see him look up. I was like, there's just an episode of the animated series, it was a Mad Hatter episode where Bruce Wayne wakes up and his parents are still alive and someone else is, and I already just feel like I'm just dribbling out of my mouth, just the most nonsensical fandom. And he just goes, perchance to dream, it's my favorite episode too. And I went, did we just become best friends? We best friends now? There will never be another Kevin Conroy. There will never be, to me, and yeah, absolutely, all the adoration and adulation. And here's why. He is, to this day, and Robert Pattinson, come on. When I get chilled, when that Batmobile showed up, I stood up, I was like, let's go. I was so jazzed. There's never been a better Batman and Bruce Wayne. And the trick is not Batman. Anybody can put on the cowl. What do? You're stoic, you're laconic, and you're deep as you can be. But can you also be Bruce Wayne and it not feel like it's just another guy stepped in to be that guy, because you couldn't do that. And no one ever has, and I don't think anybody ever will hit it just in the best way that Kevin did. Jensen Ackles did a fantastic job in Long Halloween. I say this all the time. He was a great Bruce Wayne and a killer Batman. But if you ever hear me do Batman, it is 100% me just paying homage, not to Kevin specifically, but the type of performance that Kevin gave us in Batman the Animated Series and everything in Arkham afterwards. So thank you. It was a great opportunity for me to gush over that guy. Thank you. Looks like we got 2 more, or is it just this guy? All right, you are the last of it. Anyway. Hey, it's Father's Day. Out come the dad jokes. Y'all get ready. What I love is that the room is filled up. People are like, who the? Go ahead.
My name is Tristan.
Hi, Tristan.
What was it like to play Joker?
What a great segue. I lied. What a great way to bring it full circle. So while many people have heard me tell this story, if you have, just sit there, it's my last 5 minutes. I walked into a studio in Santa Monica, and it was a blind audition. I had no idea what I was going in for. I just know that I had a time slot from like 11 to 11:15. And I come there, and they're like, come in, get the materials, and then we'll see you. I'm like, okay, so I look at it, and I'm like, Jack White, I think is what it was listed as. And I'm like, there's no picture, there's just dialogue. And there's a couple of lines that are separated as if they were scenes, and I was like, well, that's from Batman the Animated Series, that's from Dark Knight, and this is the Killing Joke monologue from, or the Tunnel of Love monologue from Killing Joke. And it was like, so you guys want like a young Mark Hamill, or like, they're like, well, what would make you think that? I was like, 'cause I'm not an idiot, I'm familiar with the source material, it's the Joker, what do you want? And they're like, oh, well, let's just, for fun, say that it is a young Mark Hamill. That would point to what Mark Hamill did in, the Arkham series. Let's just for fun. And I was like, oh, okay. So they're like, do you want to start with the easy stuff? I was like, no, because I was like, I'm about to bomb this audition on a biblical level. So, but I do want to hear the Killing Joke monologue. I just want to see what happens when I have that voice. And it's not like, I've been working on my Joker voice. I'd never done it before. And so I was like, I just want to see if I can do it. And there's a camera on me, which is just immediately awkward. And so they're like, okay, this is take 1, Troy Baker audition for Jack White, rolling whenever you're ready. And I was just like, and I immediately remembered how that monologue was going to end. And I was immediately reminded of being in a booth at Funimation for episode 6 of season 1 of Full Metal Alchemist. And I walked in as Greed. Now, Greed's first scene ever, his appearance, is I will tell you exactly how it's written out in the script. 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter. 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter. It was in that day that I realized I cannot do 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter. Troy doing 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter sounds like a dolphin having an asthma attack. Mike McFarlane, dear friend, is the one who's directing that. And he was like, okay, so here we go. 3 beeps and you'll hear 30 seconds of building maniacal laughter. Yeah, I see right here on the script, Mike. Here we go. And he's like, let's go again. Just, yeah, I hear you doing it, Mike. I can hear you do it. After 30 minutes, I hear this from Mike. Why don't you step out of the booth, man? And step on out, and he's like, we'll find something else for you, it's just not working. I'm like, I just got fired, that's great. Cut 2, I'm about to audition for the Joker, and I know this is gonna end. One of the only times I've ever been fired is because I couldn't laugh. I don't know if I can laugh. Can I laugh? What if I laugh? What if I bomb it? So I get through the whole thing, and I get this laugh, and I just take this deep breath, and I just go for it. So much so that it hurts, and I laugh until my lungs feel like they're gonna collapse. And I look over, and they're like, thank you. Anything else? Nope, we're good. Now I'm back in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm waiting for them to bring me to wardrobe, and they're telling me to go home. I'm like, man, I just get fear and regret and a little bit of shame just mixed up. It's just like this diarrhea of emotion that I'm just not feeling good about, and I leave. And I go to San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm sitting there having drinks with my friend Paul Crocker Paz, who's the guy that worked on Arkham City. And we're having a beer, and he goes, so mate, they're gonna offer you the role. And I went, what? Batman? He goes, no. Joker. And I went, man, shut up. And he's like, you should meet with the team. They're really keen to hire you. And I went, yeah, no, I don't think that's the right move for me in my career this time because BioShock had just come out. Last of Us had just come out. I'm looking good. Last thing I'm gonna do is set myself up for failure. So then I turn it down. I get it offered again, and I turn it down again. Ames Kirchen calls my agent and goes, I'd like for Troy to come by the Warner Brothers offices when he can. Ames Kirchen, the president of Warner Brothers Games, wants you to come by his office. Oh, well, I haven't been called the principal's office in a while. But I'm quite familiar. So this either ends in licks or suspension. So if you're from Texas and you're old enough, you remember what licks are. Air holes for a paddle. God, they had to, can you imagine just the Machiavellian person who drilled the holes in the paddles like this is gonna hit so many 8-year-olds in the butt. Oh. So I go to his office and he goes, hey man, come here. And he presses play on his computer and he spins the monitor around and it's my face from the audition of the Joker. I'm like, don't do that to an actor, man. That's just not cool. And he goes, press play. And I watch myself just bomb. And he goes, that's really good. I went, thanks, man. He goes, no, you don't understand. That's really good. We think so, and we're really smart. So why are you saying no? And I went, you know, man, I'm just not sure. He's like, don't bullshit me right now. Why are you telling us no? We are really smart, and we think you're really good. And I said, I'm scared. He goes, that's it? Get over yourself. We're not gonna let it be bad. So I said yes. And every session that I went to, I walked out going, they're gonna fire me. They're gonna replace me with Mark. It's gonna happen. Up until Roger Craig Smith and I are standing in the backstage for the launch event in London. They're like, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Batman and our Joker. We're like, Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker are like, no shit. We come out. So I say that again to wind it all back. Don't ever let fear be the reason why you say no to something. And realize that you will have surrounded, if you're in a position where people give you a big opportunity, you are surrounded by people who will not hold you back, but will lift you up and will carry you through, kicking and screaming though you may be, through your hardest moments. Yeah? Have a great Sunday, guys. I'll see you around. Thank you so much.